So I have before me my two favorite thin and light laptops from Asus. We have the Asus Zenbook Pro 15 OLED. This has the latest ARC Intel GPU, the A370M, and of course, the historically amazing, in my opinion, Asus ROG Flow X13. Now this has the Ryzen 9 6900HS and RTX 3050 Ti. Now, this with the latest ARC GPU, they both have 4 gigs of VRAM. Now this has the i7-12700H. So technically a slightly more powerful CPU over here in the Zenbook, but a more efficient CPU over here in the X13. Let's talk about the pros and cons of each of them and hopefully help you make the right purchasing decision for your needs. Now, first and foremost, I'm gonna look at the build quality and usability of these two laptops, then we'll get into the performance later in the video. Now, taking a look at the two, we do have fairly different chassis setups. If you look at the top camera, you can see that this laptop here, the Zenbook, is definitely quite wider with the 15.6-inch display versus the 13-inch display that is a 16:10 aspect ratio versus the 16:9 aspect ratio. Looking at the thin and lightness of the laptops, the X13 is a slightly thinner and lighter laptop with a magnesium alloy chassis versus the aluminum chassis on the Zenbook Pro. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at those screens really quickly. Now, if I were gonna have to pick a screen, personal preference, I prefer a 16:10 aspect ratio. However, this is a 15.6-inch display, so it's a little bit bigger, it gives us a little bit more room and doesn't feel as scrunched as if the 13-inch laptop was a 16:9 aspect ratio. If this came in a 16:10, this wouldn't even be a competition, and I would be saying this is like perfection in a laptop. But we do have the differences in these two screens. Now, the quality of the screens, you're gonna have a better quality screen with the OLED in the Zenbook compared to the non-OLED in the X13. You can see the color gamut range, color accuracy, and brightness coming up on the screen, and you can see in all ways the OLED screen is a better quality screen. However, you're gonna feel a little bit more compact and on-the-go friendly with the X13. Now, looking at the interior of the laptops, you can see obviously we have a bigger keyboard and trackpad here on the Zenbook. I do like the minimal keyboard setup. I like the medium key press and well spaced out keys on the X13. However, the numpad is advantageous to a lot of creators, and the larger trackpad is really a huge win for creators that are on the go that don't want to bring a mouse. It's just much more functional. Also, it's a better quality trackpad. The X13 just feels a little less refined than the Zenbook does. Now, here's a quick audio sample of me using each of the keyboards and trackpads so you can hear what they sound like. Now, they both do come with webcams on the top bezel of the screen. Here's a quick video and audio sample so you can see what that looks and sounds like. Here is the webcam on the Asus Republic of Gamer Flow X13 and a little sample of the audio for you as well. This is the webcam on the Asus Zenbook with the ARC 370M GPU. And of course, if you're curious what the speakers sound like on each of the laptops, here's a quick audio sample of the speakers. Now, ports and connectivity are a little bit different between each of these laptops. On the left side panel, as we pull these laptops up, you can see we have HDMIs on both of the side panels. And then on the Zenbook, we have a micro SD card reader, as well as an HDMI port and a USB Type-A. Now, behind this little plastic cover here, we have the XG mobile port. Now, this is where you can hook in a full-size RTX 3080 into the X13. I think this is a great addition if you're somebody looking to do really powerful 3D 3D modeling or video editing on the go, whether 6K B-RAW or 6K red footage, that RTX 3080 will give you a ton of performance. Now, also hidden in there is a USB Type-C. So if you're not even going to buy the XG Mobile, you still have a USB Type-C available to you on the left side panel. Now, as we flip these laptops around, you can see we reveal another USB Type-C on the X13 as well as a USB Type-A. And then on the Zenbook, we have our headphone jack and 2 USB Type-C. So they both come equipped with 2 USB Type-Cs, both come with USB Type-A and HDMI. However, you're going to have an additional micro SD card slot on the Zenbook. Now, as always, we can't go on without the legendary tap test here on the channel. Here's a quick sample of the Zenbook bottom and top cover tap test, starting with the top cover. Little rattly on the Zenbook's bottom cover. Let's check out the top cover on the X13. Little rattly in that corner, but the middle sounds good. And then checking out the bottom cover. Around the front sounds good. Back along the vent gets a little bit tappy. So overall, though, they sound and feel really well put together. Even checking the flex on the laptop, but barely any flex when I try and bend it. Checking out the Zenbook. Can't bend the Zenbook side to side. I recently started doing that because I grabbed a hold of the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 and I was like able to really bend it and warp it quite a bit. So I'm kind of starting to bring that test in as well. So the tap test and the warp test you should start to see in future videos. Now let's talk about battery life, because this is one of the best battery lives I've ever seen for an i7-12700H. We saw upwards of 10 hours of battery life on both Passmark and streaming video playback. Now the X13 is historically one of the best battery lives I've seen out of really any performance-oriented laptop. It has the Ryzen 9 6900HS and an RTX 3050 Ti. Now the only laptop that I've seen with better battery life is the Asus Republic of Gamers Zephyrus G14. But this is thinner and lighter than that laptop, and it still gets fantastic battery life, upwards of 13 hours of battery life if you're on iGPU mode only. Keep that in mind. Now the Zenbook over here does not have an iGPU mode, but I don't think that is as important as how well the A370M ARC GPU and the i7-12700H work together to create better battery life. I honestly think if we only ran on the GPU, we'd probably get less battery life, because what I'm thinking is happening is a really good trade-off in component usage while operating the system. So if there's something that's more graphical focused, it's going to push it to the A370. If it's something more CPU focused, it's going to push it towards the i7-12700H, creating a really nice blend of performance and efficiency inside of the Zenbook. And I'll show you how that transpires into performance later in the video. This laptop just has a fantastic efficient processor. So as soon as you turn off that GPU, the iGPU takes over, you're only running on the Ryzen processor, and you have fantastic battery life. So if you want performance mixed with battery life, I would look at the Zenbook. If you want just straight battery life because you're not going to use as much GPU power, I would go for the X13. Lenovo has sent over 3 Legion 5 Pros for us to give away when we pass 100,000 subscribers. So if you've yet to subscribe, definitely do so and ring that bell so you don't miss out on the full details once I launch a video talking about the giveaway once we pass 100,000 subscribers. Now, if you're curious about the exact pricing and availability of these 2 laptops, you can head down in the description below, click those links. If you do make a purchase, I will get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. But of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the performance benchmarks to see which laptop is better for your needs. Now, as you can see, the Asus Zenbook Pro is sitting much higher on the Geekbench single core performance than the X13 by over 200 points. Now, as we go on to Geekbench multi-core, you can see the X13 drops down a little bit on the chart and the Zenbook raises up a little bit on the chart. So for multi-core, you can see that the Zenbook is the better choice. Now, moving on to Cinebench R23, you can see that we have about the same position on the chart for Cinebench R23 single core as we did Geekbench single core. And as we move on to Cinebench R23 multi-core, the 2 laptops start to become a little bit more even, but still you can see about a 1,500 point advantage on the Asus Zenbook Pro. Now, these are the simulated benchmarks. Let's get into the real world benchmarks to see what we have in store. Now, looking at Photoshop, you can see the X13 scores an 829, where the Zenbook Pro scores as 968. So a better performing laptop by over 100 points goes to the Zenbook. Now looking in After Effects, we see a closer story. We see a 702 versus a 685, so not making a big difference there between the two laptops. Now as we move on to Premiere Pro, we got about a 6,880 drop frames for 6K B-RAW versus the roughly 1,500 drop frames for Premiere Pro Playback with 6K B-RAW inside of the X13. So punch for punch, it looks like NVIDIA is still more optimized than Intel's new ARC GPUs for Premiere Pro. So for me, the Zenbook would not be a suitable 6K video editing laptop, where the X13 actually does have some 6K video editing capabilities with B-RAW. Now they're both great 4K video editing laptops, but if you're looking at 6K and you're considering the X13, it would be the better choice. Overall, I don't think it's the best choice for 6K video editing, but between the two, it is the better choice. Now looking at 4K export times out of Premiere Pro, this is a 9-minute 4K clip placed into Premiere Pro and exported at 4K YouTube settings. You can see that we have a 3-minute and 58-second export out of the X13 and a 3-minute and 29-second export out of the Zenbook. So slightly better export time out of the Zenbook compared to the X13. Now for DaVinci Resolve, definitely go for the X13, 2 minutes faster on the export time. Again, I can't see ARC having really good export times out of DaVinci Resolve yet. Hopefully in the future, we'll see them optimize the GPU better for DaVinci Resolve, but right now NVIDIA inside of the X13 is going to be the better choice. Now looking at the 4K thermal results for the export times, looking at thermals and fan noise, better thermals and better fan noise are going to come from the Asus Zenbook Pro 15. A little bit more optimized, showing us a little bit better power and thermal management to give us better fan noise. The max decibels we saw on the fan noise were 48. The average was around 35, and the lowest we saw was actually 0, and it still had a great export time at 0 decibels of fan noise, and that cannot be said necessarily about the X13. The lowest decibels we saw was 42 decibels, and even on silent mode, we saw 45 decibels, but we set a 6-minute and 21-second export time. So punch for punch, I would definitely go for the Asus Zenbook with better thermal management and fan noise, and just overall better control of the components. I'm actually surprised to see more control out of the Zenbook. I thought we would see more control out of the Asus Flow X13 because of, the complicated Asus Armory crate that gives you so much control and capabilities. But overall, when it actually came down to controlling the system, the Zenbook showed better control of the actual, when you press the button, does it make a difference? With the Zenbook, yes it does. Punch for punch, I definitely have found my new favorite on-the-go laptop from Asus. The Asus Zenbook Pro 15 Flip OLED just has so much to offer with an OLED screen that's color accurate, bright, and has great color gamut range, as well as great power efficiency and performance out of this laptop. We get great battery life and great performance all matched into a laptop with a nice trackpad, and you have a numpad on the right side as well as a full-size keyboard. Now the X13 does have a lot to offer, and if you don't mind turning off your GPU to get great battery life, then it's a great pick. And it also has that 16:10 aspect ratio, which I wish the Zenbook had. However, the 15.6-inch screen gives me a little bit forgiveness for that 16:9 aspect ratio. I can kind of be accepting of it because I still have more screen, just isn't as tall. But punch for punch, my vote would go for the Zenbook if I was making a purchase. I mean, it is now my new daily driver, and I've been really enjoying it for the past month. Links in the description if you're ready to make a purchase. Likes if this video has brought you some value, and of course subscribe so you can be a part of the giveaway once we pass 100,000 subscribers. I'll see you here in the next video.